Hi, my name is Katie, and I have been emotionally compromised by episode 18 of Shadowhunters. So, episode 18, hey? Oh boy! That was quite an emotional journey. This episode just managed to achieve so much. It put the characters in vulnerable places that we've never seen them in before. It gave us flashbacks to scenes that we've been wondering about. It gave us some really badass action moments. And most importantly, it did not kill Max Lightwood. Max is alive at the end of this episode. My sweet innocent baby boy Max is still living. He survived Sebastian's attack. Can you believe that? Can you believe? I'm going to start off by talking about Max, because although he was unconscious for most of it, he had some great moments. The episode starts where last week left off. Max knows that Sebastian is Jonathan. So Sebastian locks him in the room, and obviously you know he's going to do anything to stop Max from revealing his true identity. But Max actually manages to get in a few hits. He throws a dagger at Sebastian, and although I was stressed because I knew what was about to happen, I was so proud of that boy. When he threw that dagger, I was like, yes Max, you go, you throw that dagger at that evil son of a bitch. Despite him trying his very best, he does still get smacked down onto the table by Sebastian, who then leaves him there. He hides him under a table because Clary walks in, but then when he goes back to check on Max, he isn't there. He has managed to stumble his way into Clary's room, which is where Izzy finds him. Later on in the episode, they discover that he was there trying to get Jonathan's box. So that lets the others know that this was down to Jonathan and that he is in the Institute, hidden as one of them. So Max, throughout most of this episode, is not dead, but he is unconscious and it doesn't look great for him. Already at that, I was happy in the way they've changed it from the books, because in the books it is so sudden and it ends up such a massive shock to the Lightwoods, and they end up tearing themselves up over that because no one was there for him. Whereas in this episode, Izzy finds him before he's actually dead. They spend time with him whilst he's unconscious. The Lightwoods all gather together in this moment to be there for Max. We have Mayrus and Robert, who obviously aren't getting along at the moment because of Robert's affair, and yet they still come together for this because it's their son. So I love that we were given that opportunity to have a bit more time. So even if he had have died in this episode, I still would have been happy that they gave us that family moment rather than just quickly killing him off for shock value. I'm not saying that I disliked how it happened in the books, because I still think that was such a hugely important moment. I said that last week. It allowed the characters to develop in certain ways. But I was happy to see the show changed it up a little bit, because we were all expecting Max to die, probably in the same way that he did in the books. So it is good that they gave us a bit more of a surprise with this storyline. This situation with Max gave us some really great scenes for the rest of the Lightwoods, especially when it came to Izzy. We didn't focus on her a lot in this episode because there was so many other things going on, but we did get to see how much what had happened with Max affected her. We had that scene where she was sitting by him in the infirmary and wouldn't leave his side. I was so worried in that scene because you had Sebastian telling Izzy that she needed to take a break because she had to take care of herself. And I was just like, no! I was not going to have Sebastian trying to finish off Max. No. But then, thankfully, Mayrus and Robert walked in. I hated as well that when they said that Brother Enoch was their only option to try and save Max, and even with that option, he probably won't survive. Sebastian just gave this little smirk. Oh, no. I wanted to hit him so much. Honestly, he was a fantastic villain in this episode. I'll give him that. That tiny little smirk was just pure evil. So despite the situation not looking good for Max, he somehow does manage to pull through whatever Brother Enoch does to him. The first thing that he says when he wakes up is, "Did you catch Sebastian?" That's our baby Max! I am so proud of him. Honestly, I can't even begin to describe how happy I am that he made it through. Although he was awake at the end of the episode, I still don't think he's going to come through this unscathed, whatever the Silent Brothers had to do to him. It was obviously very powerful considering how bad Max's condition was. So I am thinking that there will be some after effects of that. Just because although they have allowed Max to survive, I don't think it's going to be all rainbows and flowers. There's definitely got to be some sort of catch to this. But I am very proud of the writers for not letting him die. Moving on to the other big storyline in this episode, Malik. Yeah, let's talk about Malik because there's just a lot to discuss. The Malik storyline in this episode was brilliant in a tear your heart out sort of way. We were given so many fantastic scenes, but Alec and Magnus are still not on good terms at the end of this episode. So after what happened last week, Magnus and Luke do go to the Seelie court, and the Queen wants to form an alliance with them, but for them that would mean turning their backs on the Shadowhunters. I really enjoyed this scene down in the Seelie court, especially because it was Luke and Magnus getting to go off and do a thing as well. And I always love getting to see some of the more political sides of the Shadow World. Once again, we had Luke trying to persuade Magnus that it wasn't a good idea to go against the Shadowhunters. And even though Magnus is still angry with Alec, he does doubt whether what he's doing is the right thing. The Seelie Queen gives him a rose and tells him that when that rose turns black, then his time's up, and that's when they need to decide whether they're going to join the Seelies or not. When Magnus goes back to his apartment, and he's waiting for this rose to start turning darker, he starts remembering important moments that he's had with Alec. I am so happy that we got flashbacks in this episode, and more importantly, that these flashbacks fixed the issues that we have had with Malik's storyline. If you are an active member of the Shadowhunters fandom, especially on Tumblr, you will know that it hasn't been plain sailing when it comes to Malik. There has been quite a lot of discourse over this past season especially. I feel like the writers used this episode as a way to go back and fix any mistakes that viewers might have had problems with. The first flashback that we got goes right back to season 1 when we had Alec staying over at Magnus's. We know that they had drinks together, but we don't really know what else happened. This flashback that we got showed Alec waking up in the morning, and we got to see the conversation between him and Magnus before he left. It showed them having this unusual trust for each other that they weren't used to. It showed that connection forming between them early on. It was just such a wonderful scene. I really wasn't expecting a flashback from the first season either, so I was very happy that that was included. The next flashback cleared my skin, watered my crops. When it comes to Malik getting intimate, people have been very vocal in what they wanted to see but weren't given. I know a lot of people got quite disappointed when we weren't shown the same amount of intimacy between them that we were when it came to people like Jace. With Malik, it was always a fade to black kind of moment. In this episode, the writers filled in those blanks. We get to see what I assume is the two of them getting intimate for the first time. This scene was so pure because they were just so happy and they were giggling and it was adorable. And also it fixed one of the problems that people had when it came to them spending the night together properly for the first time. I remember a lot of fans speaking about the issue of consent. That was quite a big deal in that episode. I can't remember what number episode it was. I think it might have been season 2, episode 7. But I know people didn't exactly think that there was enough consent between the two of them. But this scene showed that both Alec and Magnus were clearly comfortable with the situation and what was going on because they were so giggly and happy. And I'm so glad that we were shown that. I am all for writers fixing their mistakes. What this episode showed me is that the team behind this show really listened to what the fans have to say, and it fixed a lot of important things. So yeah, I am just unbelievably happy. The best thing about this scene for me was Magnus's cat eyes. Whilst they are on the bed, Magnus ends up pulling away really quickly, and Alec's worried that he's done something wrong, but Magnus assures him that it's nothing to do with him, he just loses control of his warlock abilities sometimes. So his cat eyes appeared without him wanting them to, and he looks at Alec with the cat eyes. Everything about this moment was just perfect, because Alex says that those eyes are beautiful, and I was a mess. The writers couldn't have given us a more perfect scene. I feel so blessed. Just the range of emotions in that one quick scene as well, because you go from passionate to funny and flirty to serious and emotional. It was just so well done. The final flashback that we got is the morning after. A little clip of this was released earlier on in the week, and I was emotional over just that, but seeing the whole scene together was just perfect. It's just such an adorable and intimate little moment between the two of them. And I loved seeing Alec joke around a little bit when he said that he needed to go back to the Institute, and Magnus is like, oh, and Alec's like, I'm just kidding. I loved that because of that first flashback that we got when he has to rush off in the morning and wouldn't stay for breakfast. It just showed how far they've come from that point, and they have this great conversation about what Magnus is afraid of, because Alec says that he is a powerful warlock, he's immortal. Alec wants to know what actually does make him scared. And although Magnus is kind of joking around at first, he does actually open up and say that he's scared of having something to lose. And that was just heartbreaking, because you know why we're being given these flashbacks. It's because Magnus is thinking about his relationship with Alec and whether he is going to lose him after this episode or not. We just got given so much to be proud of in this episode, I think. The writers did an incredible job. Harry and Matt did an incredible job. I love the two of them working together. They just have so much chemistry on screen. And also, can we talk about the fact that no one supports Malik as much as Matt? Like, honestly, he is the captain of this ship. He really is. But obviously it wasn't all a bed of roses. The whole reason that we got these flashbacks is because there is trouble in paradise. Alec goes to Magnus in this episode because of Max. He trusts Magnus the most, so obviously he would want Magnus to double check that nothing can be done for Max other than this risk they need to take with Brother Enoch. So Magnus does come to the Institute and confirms that nothing else can be done. That moment where he held Alec's hand, honestly, the emotions. I also felt really sorry for Magnus when Alec pulled away to go and be with his family and Magnus was just left standing there. I kind of knew at that point that this episode wasn't really going to end well for them. After we find out that Max is conscious again, Magnus is looking at the rose when Alec comes to speak to him, and it seems to be going well at first because Alec is saying that he loves Magnus and Magnus says that I love you too, but then he brings up that conversation they had about what he fears, and Magnus says that this is what he fears, and then he walks away and leaves Alec standing there fighting back tears. Was I emotionally prepared for that scene? No. Will I be getting over that scene anytime soon? No. I really was not ready for that. That was just so heartbreaking. And again, Harry and Matt were fantastic in this scene. But oh boy, was it emotional. As heartbreaking as it is, I do actually have something that I'm happy about here. I am happy that the drama between them has been about something that's a genuine issue. In the books, Alec creates a lot of tension with sort of immature issues. His insecurity over Magnus being bisexual, him feeling like Magnus being immortal is too much of a problem. They were the main sources of drama between Malik in the books. And I'm not saying that the immortality thing wasn't a valid reason, because that definitely was. But I've always hated Alec's pettiness over Magnus's love life. So the drama that they had in the books, I didn't always feel like it was necessarily needed. Whereas this situation between them in the show, it's just more of a real and mature issue, I think, for them. And something that if they move past this will just make them stronger. So I am happy with the way that it's been done. Other points of discussion in this episode, really wasn't expecting Bat to be brought in the show. I didn't even think about him, to be honest. Yet he popped up. up in this episode. We got to see him being turned into a wolf. We know Luke has been having troubles with the New York pack. A lot of people have left him after various things that have happened. There is one wolf called Russell who has gone off and started his own kind of pack. He attacks a mundane so that he can get more wolves. That mundane is Bat. Maya and Simon are the ones who discover him, and they take him to Luke and have to watch over him to see if he turns. Having Bat in this episode really gave us a chance to see some great scenes with Maya. I loved seeing her step up to the job of looking after Bat and making sure that his transition into a wolf the first time was as comfortable as it possibly could be. In that situation, she tried to handcuff him, she got him food for after that transition, and more importantly, it made her open up about her own experience. We have a scene where Simon points out the scratches on her neck and asks if that was from the wolf who turned her, and this is where she opens up about Jordan. I just loved this scene so much, and once again it made me very glad that Maya is going to be a series regular, because Alicia Wainwright is a fantastic actress, and it really showed in this scene because she got those emotions across really well. I'm so glad that we got to see that vulnerable side of Maya, and also we got to see that doubt that she has about falling in love again, because this is where it got her last time. So yeah, everything about Maya in this episode was just brilliantly done. Whilst we're talking about wolves, let's talk about Luke. We definitely got more Luke action in this episode, which I was really happy about. Specifically, the scene where he went to go and challenge Russell. Luke ends up fighting with him in this grungy little place that he's been staying with his own wolves. We know that challenges between werewolves are fights to the death. Luke manages to get Russell in a vulnerable position on the ground, but he doesn't kill him. And he says from then on there are going to be new rules. And that makes all the wolves bow down to him and realise what idiots they've been trying to follow Russell. I was so proud of Luke in this scene. Finally, we got a really great moment for him. I still stressed out about him though, because later on we find out that his assistant has planted a camera in Jade Wolf, and she captures that whole conversation he has about the pack coming together, whether they're new or old members. Her and her girlfriend hear everything. So it's clear that she is onto Luke now, and she's going to try and find out more about what the hell is going on. So we will see where that goes. Also in this episode, obviously we had drama with Sebastian. Throughout this entire episode he is on a mission to get that mirror. The Institute ends up on lockdown because they now know that Jonathan is in the building. I like that we got to see Sebastian panic a lot during this episode because everyone was suspicious. So we got to see him unravel a little bit, but he still got away in the end. Jace goes to protect the mirror himself because he has been raised by Valentine too, so he says that if anyone can take Jonathan down, it's going to be him. And I love Sebastian's face when Jace said that as well. But whilst Jace is down there guarding the mirror, he gets a text from Alec's phone to say that they've lost Max. And I knew straight away that this was Sebastian. And I just hated that moment because I knew Jace was going to run to the Lightwoods because that's his family. So Sebastian takes that opportunity to go and get the mirror. This scene of him walking down there and getting those two swords out, that was creepy as hell. He just took all of those Shadowhunters down. Some of the best Shadowhunter gods they've got, and he just sliced them up. Every week I'm just so happy with how much of an amazing Sebastian Will Tudor is. So he gets hold of the mirror, thinks that he's got away with it, but then we find out that Clary has been clever. From Jace reading Valentine's notes about Jonathan, they know that he can't handle electrodes, so Clary ends up taking some from Izzy's whip and tests it on everyone to try and find out who Jonathan is. This conversation the Sebastian has with Clary before he gets tested, when he asks Clary what she'd do if she found Jonathan. I loved what Clary said in this moment, that she would kill him with her bare hands because of what he's done. Sebastian's face! That was iconic, really. He holds this piece of Izzy's whip, and I knew that it wouldn't affect him. He's obviously learned how to tolerate that. So he walks away from it looking completely fine, but then Clary goes after him, pulls at his hand and sees that it's burned. And so finally Clary knows who Jonathan is. That scene with the two of them in the lift was terrifying because obviously Sebastian was his creepy self towards his sister. Clary did a great job in bringing him down and getting the mirror off him. So even though he escaped, he didn't get what he wanted. I was so proud of how badass Clary was at the end of this episode. She uses her rune to deactivate the powers of the mirror, but then it ends up getting destroyed in her hand, and that is when they kind of realise that this can't be the actual mortal mirror. Finally, at the end of the episode, she sees the painting of Lake Lynn, and that's when she realises that that lake is the true mortal mirror. So now they know where the final mortal instrument is. I have to mention as well, I love the moment where Jace and Clary were trying to retrace Max's steps to find out what he was doing before he ended up unconscious. We just had this really lovely moment between the two of them where Jace was kneeling on the floor at the spot where Max was found, and although he wasn't saying anything, you could see how truly upset he was. And I'm glad that Clary was just there to comfort him. She didn't even have to say anything. So yeah, there was just so much going on in this episode, but it was all fantastic. I need to wrap things up now, otherwise this video will be just far too long. So I've probably skipped out on mentioning a lot of things, but if there is anything else that you would like to discuss, then feel free to do so in the comments. So I am excited to see where it goes from here. We only have 2 episodes left, so I'm sure the next 2 episodes are going to be action-packed. I will be back again next week to talk about episode 19. Who knows what's going to happen, because honestly at this point anything could happen. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye!